A train accelerates into the mouth of a tunnel and doesn't come out for 42 kilometers. The mountain around it isn't just rock, it's rock squeezed under so much pressure that chunks of it can fire off the walls without warning. Outside, the peaks climb past 4,000 meters, and the air holds so little oxygen that the men who built this place needed bottled air just to swing a hammer. This is the Sichuan Tibet Railway. China is spending around $45 billion to drive a railway straight through the most violent terrain on the planet, a place where the ground itself is still rising, still cracking, still trying to tear apart anything built on top of it. Engineers have called it the hardest construction project in human history, and the strangest part isn't that China is building it, it's why. If you've seen this railway online, you've seen the same thing everyone shows you: a sleek train gliding past snow peaks, a few seconds of drone footage, a caption about how amazing it looks. What almost nobody explains is what's actually underneath that train. Because this isn't a railway in the way you picture one, and once you understand how it's built, the word impossible stops sounding like an exaggeration. We'll get to the part where the mountains literally fight back, where the rock explodes and the earth shakes the tunnels apart. But first, you need to understand why anyone would attempt this in the first place, because the reason has almost nothing to do with trains. Getting from Chengdu, a city of over 20 million people in central China, to Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, has always been brutal. By road, across the old mountain highways, the journey can swallow most of 2 days, winding over passes that snap shut with the weather and roads that vanish in landslides. For a region this strategically important, that was never going to be acceptable forever, so the plan was simple to say and almost impossible to do: build a railway that turns a 2-day ordeal into an afternoon. Connect the industrial heartland directly to the roof of the world. And here's the part that makes governments outside China nervous. A railway like this isn't just transport, it's reach. It's the ability to move people, goods, and let's be honest, soldiers and supplies into one of the most contested high-altitude borders on Earth in a fraction of the time it used to take. The engineering is breathtaking. The motivation behind it is pure strategy. Here's where the story stops being about trains and starts being about something far stranger. The new section being built from Ya'an to Ningxi runs a little over 1,000 kilometers, but you'll barely see the landscape from inside it because around 95% of that distance is not laid across the ground at all. It's either buried inside a mountain or suspended in the air on a bridge. Sit with that for a second. Out of more than 1,000 kilometers, over 800 kilometers run through tunnels, 72 separate ones, and another 100 plus cross bridges. The stretch where the train actually sits on normal open ground is almost a rounding error. This isn't a railway that goes over the Himalayas, it's a railway that goes through them. The mountains were never going to let a train climb across their surface, so China decided to hollow them out instead. The longest single tunnel on the line runs 42 kilometers, long enough to swallow the entire rail network of some small countries inside one hole in the rock, and those mountains do not cooperate. The railway crosses the exact seam where the Indian tectonic plate is ramming into the Eurasian plate, the same collision that pushed the Himalayas into the sky and is still pushing them higher today. That means earthquakes. Frequent, powerful ones, fully capable of shearing a tunnel in half or dropping a bridge into a valley. Then there is the pressure. Many of these tunnels sit more than 1 kilometer below the surface of the mountain. At that depth, the rock is squeezed so hard and runs so hot that it stores enormous energy. And when a drill finally breaks through, that energy releases all at once. Slabs of stone fire off the tunnel walls like shrapnel. Engineers call it a rock burst, and it can kill a man instantly. Add ground that freezes and thaws with the seasons, warping everything built into it. Add air so thin that the workers themselves were operating on a fraction of normal oxygen every single day. Earthquakes, exploding rock, permafrost, and altitude, all four at once for over 1,000 kilometers. That is the job China signed up for. If the sheer scale of this is starting to mess with your head, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I go this deep on a different mega project every week, and drop one word in the comments. Would you actually ride through a 42-kilometer tunnel, a kilometer beneath a mountain, in an earthquake zone? Be honest. Because as staggering as this is, it hasn't come for free, and the parts that never make the highlight reels deserve a mention. A project this size, in terrain this hostile, carries a human cost. Driving tunnels through rock-burst-prone rock at altitude is some of the most dangerous construction work on Earth, and pushing a line through this region for over a decade comes with risks that rarely show up in the promotional clips. There's an environmental cost, too. The Tibetan Plateau is one of the most fragile and important ecosystems on the planet, the source of rivers that billions of people downstream depend on. You don't carve hundreds of kilometers of tunnel and bridge through something like that and simply undo it later. And there's the politics. Tibetan advocacy groups have argued for years that infrastructure like this isn't really built for the people living there, that it's about binding a region more tightly to the center. Whether you see this railway as development or as something heavier depends a great deal on where you happen to be standing. But step back, and the railway says something bigger than its own controversy. Across much of the Western world, building a single high-speed line across flat, friendly farmland turns into a 20-year saga of delays, lawsuits, ballooning budgets, and projects quietly canceled. Meanwhile, China is drilling 800 kilometers of tunnel through an active earthquake zone at the roof of the world, and treating it as a solvable problem rather than an impossible one. That difference isn't really about engineering talent. The skills exist everywhere. It's about will and money, and a willingness to push straight through obstacles that other systems treat as reasons to stop. You can admire that, or you can be unsettled by it. Often the honest answer is both, because the same determination that builds the impossible railway is the determination that doesn't slow down for whatever or whoever is in its way. So is the Sichuan Tibet Railway a monument to human ingenuity, proof that we can build almost anything if we simply refuse to accept the word impossible? Or is it a warning about what gets steamrolled when a project becomes unstoppable? Maybe it's both at once. Maybe that's exactly what makes it worth watching. The line isn't finished yet, but when it is, a journey that once took 2 days across some of the deadliest roads on Earth will take a matter of hours. Almost entirely underground and in the air, the mountains that were supposed to make it impossible will have lost. If this changed how you think about what is actually being built in the world right now, hit subscribe and stick around. There is a new one every week. Like the video, send it to someone who will not believe it is real, and tell me in the comments, ingenuity or warning. I read every single one.